asked us to write a letter requesting an allergen test for Mr. Tom Riddle, who recently had an asthma attack after a long period. This patient had a childhood asthma but is being absent for long 8 years. But he recently had an outbreak once he moved into a new accommodation where he has dusty carpet and 2 cats. This patient has been to the hospital, so we are writing a letter requesting a further allergen test for this patient. We must ensure to pick up only the relevant information and avoid irrelevant information because you may have a lot of information in the case note. Let us look into the case note first. We have the details of the patient given in the case note as Tom Riddle, age 20, date of birth 19th May 1998, and address 88 Ridge Road, Dandenong East, of which you must mention the age in the reference. In the social history, we can see that he is a known smoker and a social drinker, which should be mentioned in the letter. Looking at the family history, the only relevant case is that his grandfather was asthmatic, but you shouldn't write about his grandfather because it is pointless to say who had asthma in his family. But it is vital to pass the information that this patient has strong family history of asthma. You need to highlight that point in your letter. While going through the medical history of the patient, we can see a lot of dates and medications are given in the case note. Most of the information given are irrelevant because a person who is doing an allergen test for a patient just need to know the triggering factors the patient went through and not the treatments he had when admitted in the hospital, where they managed well and he recovered it. So filter out the relevant information from the case note, such as the patient has childhood asthma but was absent for the past 8 years. He has no known allergies even though he has eczema. His recent attack happened after he moved to a new accommodation where he has dusty carpets and 2 cats, which are the triggering factors of asthma. And some of the important health conditions such as restlessness, wheezing, increased sleep disruption, etc. Another important information given in the medical history is that he was educated regarding the triggering factors and was taught the proper usage of inhaler. Taking all these points, we have to prepare a letter in an organized manner. Now, let us see how we can write a letter with the help of a sample letter written by a candidate from India. Looking into the details of the letter, we could see that the address, date and salutation are correctly written. But when it comes to the reference, it can be a bit more refined. While writing the reference, you may avoid the word aged. So, the reference can be written as RE: Mr. Tom Riddle, 20 years. Moving to the introduction paragraph, it is well written in terms of grammar but is less impressive. To make the paragraph impressive, the sentences should be constructed in a proper way. The introduction can therefore be written as, I am writing to refer Mr. Riddle, an asthmatic patient who requires an allergen identification test, which is much impressive and gives a clear idea to the reader. So always try to make the introduction precise and concise. Coming to the second paragraph, the writer has explained each and every details of his treatment he obtained during his hospital stay. But if you look at this information closely, all this information such as Mr. Riddle underwent chest X-ray, clear pre-bronchodilator that showed FEEV 1:3.61 and post-bronchodilator and so on, these information are not needed to be known for an allergen tester because these are the treatments when the patient was admitted in the hospital where they managed well and he recovered it. So, for a person who is doing an allergen test for another patient, just need to know the triggering factors the patient went through. Here, the proper detailing of the patient is much more important than his recent hospital stay. Because this patient has childhood asthma, but that was relieved for the past 8 years, his recent attack happened after he moved to a new accommodation where he has dusty carpets and 2 cats. Obviously, these are the triggering factors for an asthmatic patient. Therefore, these factors should be highlighted at first of the paragraph. Also, you could add the things that happened to him after he moved to his new accommodation which is the relevant information missed out in this letter, which is he became restless, wheezing, increased sleep disruption, and he was managed conservatively with medicines. And then you can mention the kind of person he is, that he is a known smoker but a social drinker. The writer should also include some more information regarding the things he obtained during the hospital stay in this paragraph, which means Mr. Riddle has been educated about the triggering factors and he was taught how to manage them, which can be seen as the last sentence of the letter. You can omit all the information given in the second paragraph except the last sentence because all these informations are irrelevant. In the third paragraph, the writer says the patient's grandfather had asthma, which is totally irrelevant, and the information provided doesn't lead to the patient's condition. Instead, those ideas just remain as a social background. We can also see that important information is missing from this paragraph, that is, the patient has no known allergies even though he has eczema, which cannot be seen anywhere in the letter despite being a vital information. One information regarding an allergy, it's very much important to mention that when you are writing a letter on behalf of a patient who requires a test to identify the allergens, missing out this vital information can reduce your OET score. In the last paragraph, it would be greatly appreciated if you could review him and provide further tests to detect the unknown allergens for eczema and asthma. The writer can simply write to detect the allergens instead of beating around the bush. In the sign-off, the writer should use yours instead of your in yours sincerely. Charge nurse is written correctly. Overall, what I would suggest is the details about the treatment he went through during his hospital stay are of not importance for an allergen testing patient because the reader has to know more about the patient's living situation. That's all. Thank you.
New method for OET learning. How are you preparing? Online or offline? For speaking and writing, you can get tutor reviews. How will you be able to manage your reading and listening? How can you manage your self-practice easier than ever before? Learn OET in Merlin's way. Most successful OET learning method from world's best online trainer. Chat now. mentormerlinexam.com